Welcome back to the third Theory Thursday of the day. I am the Theoretical Theorist, and today we are going to be discussing Zelda is Ganon Demise. Alright, so in normal fashion, we will be doing a recap. I'm gonna try to switch up the style of this video. I want to grow as a YouTuber. So yeah, there will be a few new changes, additions. Ignore the crinkling. But yes, let's discuss what we have gone over so far. So, first, the paths. In the first video we talked about in this line of series of logic and reasoning and theory goodness, we talked about what we got wrong with the path's divergence. The most common thing I hear out there is that it's because the people themselves went back in time or forward in time and Ganon won, and because, Ganon then got executed, and all the good path things. And I don't want to go into too much, but essentially that's what the standard has been up to this point. And I propose it is not the people going back, but the actual Triforce itself doing a sort of Marvel, Infinity Stone out of the timeline type thing before Marvel was even doing it. I think they're the OG. So that's the first one. The second video, obviously, Triforce Paths. We kind of went over the themes of each of the timelines because I kind of wanted to set the themes because it was kind of important. Just like in last episode, there was, again, other themes. I just wanted to highlight the overarching ones first so that you guys can understand that this is kind of a theme of themes. Third would be the convergence. Obviously, this is a common Zelda tuber theory due to all the information that you have within Breath of the Wild. It is almost considered canon that it's a kind of collective of all three timelines and somewhere at the end. And I think it might have even been confirmed. Cue video if it has. Okay, gave myself long enough. So the fourth video was about what we actually got wrong, specifically in this new wave of re-released Skyward HD hype. We talked about what we got wrong and specifically what went wrong with Hylia's plan to stop Demise. Again, whole video on that. You can go back and check that. But essentially boils down to the wrong person made the wish. Right? Crazy. Anyways, the next thing that we went over were some of Link's failures, which are actually repeated throughout the entire series, specifically one that we went over in detail. That was just today's video. If you guys are watching this one and you haven't watched the two from today, you should at least watch those. I mean, you don't have to go all the way back to the first video. I mean, I would watch all of them. That's kind of the point of it. They all kind of lead into each other. I know it's kind of takes a little bit to get there, but we're getting there. But specifically now what we're talking about, since we're past that, and it's gonna kind of touch on what we touched on earlier today at noon. So I mean, I guess you don't have to go back and watch them completely, but it's recommended, just so you grasp the full concept in its entirety. We're gonna be talking about, is Ganon actually Demise? Alright, so let's talk about the curse. At least what's called the curse, specifically because he says it's a curse. Specifically, I think it's just he understands the circumstances more than anybody else does. But it goes as follows. Extraordinary. You stand as a paragon of your kind, human. You fight like no human or demon I have ever known. Though this is not the end, my hate never perishes. It is born anew in a cycle with no end. I will rise again. Those like you, those who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, they are eternally bound to this curse. An incarnation of my hatred shall ever follow your kind, dooming them to wander a blood-soaked sea of darkness for all time. Now, rhyming aside, it does seem like a curse. Except if he could just curse anyone, why wouldn't he do that all the time? And why would it specifically be this curse? I don't think it's so much a curse as it's more of just like a premonition. You have to kind of think of what happened in context. I actually brought this up earlier today, but specifically, Girahim was made to be basically the parallel to Fi. And right before he says this, or in the middle of saying this, he disappears. Just goes off. And again, if you've watched my earlier videos, you would know that specifically his resurrection is coming from the soul of the goddess, who is still around, and he's being sealed in a sword that must stay in a pedestal. Which doesn't happen. Yeah, so it's the curse. I think it's more of a warning that this isn't over. Yeah. The next part is the seal. Yeah. For this, we have a video. Did he do it? Okay, so yeah, as you saw, it kind of gives a little bit of credit to what I've said. There is a little bit more. Maybe I'll show it here in a little bit, or if anybody wants a dedicated video specifically about the seal, if you guys don't really know about how it works, I might just do that. That might be a little bit better. Maybe I should have done that before. Oh well. Anyways, yeah, so there is a seal. Obviously input implicates that it can be broken if somebody happens to lift it out. And yeah, I think that's why it gets moved, and then sealed away. But as we know, that definitely change later on. But yeah, let's move on. So, Zelda's progression through the series. See, this is an interesting one, because I didn't even think about it at first until I really just started diving into it. And there's actually some repercussions from the ongoing drain of her spirit. As we see throughout the series, it slowly is harder and harder and harder and harder for her to actually become Zelda, reincarnated Hylia. In Wind Waker, she's actually a pirate who, yeah, that was a great one. But in the most recent reincarnation in Breath of the Wild, she struggled dearly to be able to access the goddess. And I think this is because it's been so long that this ritual has been going on without there being any, as I think some people would have said, without there being any big grand battle between the three of them. So it's kind of allowed Demise to slowly reincarnate farther and farther because of the fact that Ganon has been sealed. And by Ganon, I mean the body of Ganon. I don't actually think it is gonna be Ganon. I think it's gonna be Demise in his skin. And that's why it's gonna be a resurrected corpse. Because the Malice, which we'll be getting into, I believe that's where it's coming from. So yeah, as we go through the different games, you can definitely see progression of Zelda's spirit weaken. And again, I think this is due specifically to that ongoing resurrection that Girahim is doing. Because as it was stated, it's not going to stop. Which again brings us on to our next one. The second thing is the Master Sword's weakness. It doesn't really seem to be up to snuff anymore. And I think this is kind of twofold. I think it's because the ongoing battle within the sword has waned on it. I also think it's why we don't have it such as powerful, and it actually needs to be returned to the pedestal every once in a while to when you break it or whatever. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to examine because it's not the same as it used to be, but this is the sword that's apparently sealing Demise. It is in the pedestal. It contains Fee. So that has a lot of implication to as what's going on. And I guess I framed it wrong. It's not so much the battle that's going on within. I think it's the battle that's going on outside. I don't think Fee is there anymore. I don't think Demise is either. I honestly think that is why, and I'm trying not to get into next week's topic because I've done so many of this today, but yeah, I don't think it's the same Master Sword containing the same spirits that it used to. Which then, of course, let's move on before I get too excited. Let's talk about the Malice for a minute. I do believe, I think somebody else has pointed that out. The last time we really saw this level of power was from Demise. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ganon has had power before, but not this much power. I mean, he's able to infect the entire land even one of the great spirits gets infected. So it's really interesting. But I think this is something key that we got to think about. Because specifically Malice has another word, and it's hatred. And as we just watched a couple minutes ago, that is what Demise said would be following them. An incarnation of his hatred. And I think that's where this is coming from. I think this is Demise. I think he's got power. It's seeping out. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting Breath of the Wild 2. So let's talk about the last thing. Ganon's power. As paralleled with Zelda. And kind of through the timeline as well. On both sides. For both Zelda and Ganon. There has been an increase where Zelda's power has decreased, or at least ability to access the power. And I believe this is due to the fact that Demise, with the pulling of the Master Sword, has been able to slowly reincarnate more and more and more each time because of the fact that the seals essentially is being weakened. And we'll get into more about that tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, next week. In the next episode. It's going to be an interesting one, but this is the kind of point that I want to leave you. If there's the parallels with Ganon and Zelda, one going up while the other one's going down, and then we find this point where Malice, or reincarnation of hatred, has now taken over a corpse. I mean, there's not really too many options to go with that. I mean, we're just gonna do another Ganon, like dead Ganon. Okay, that seems super cool because we just had like 2 back-to-back games where we just fought Ganon. I mean, and I get it. I just don't think they're going to release Skyward Sword HD after it's Demise can't be a one and done character. It just doesn't make sense. And with increase in power of Ganon's, decrease in Zelda's, what that was said in Skyward Sword and Skyward Sword HD, at least from what I know, it hasn't changed. I do believe that ritual is still going on. I believe that Ganon is slowly gaining power because Demise is being resurrected more and more and more and being corrupted by his hatred. Or Malice. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Next week, come back. The next episode will be who is the hand that's keeping Ganon down? You might have caught on to it. Thanks.